Hello, beautiful people. It's Sinderfam. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be checking this video from the Whatever podcast. Let's check it out.
So I made a Instagram poll and asked their age, religion, political background, whatever, to account for all the variables.
Sure.
And like 95% probably said they don't care. It's not a deal breaker. Y'all can go check it out. It's a highlight on my Insta.
This is you should pull it up because I'd like to see how it's phrased.
I said, no, without adding commentary, age, just answer these questions. Age, religion, whatever. Is body count a deal breaker if you're otherwise compatible, which is what we discussed last time.
If you're otherwise, okay, so everything is good except you 1,000 guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So and they said that that's not a deal breaker.
Very few people cared. Y'all should pull it up.
So.
And that's what I was arguing last time. And I think it should be, actually, for multiple reasons. And I can go over them all if you want. But
so you think that we should raise awareness that you should be asking women their body counts more?
I don't think there's a reason. I don't think it's negative in any way, too.
Yeah. So then I agree with you that there are far too many men who are willing to accept women with really high body counts. It's absolutely revolting to me, some of the numbers that I've heard from women, where I'm just like, I don't even know how you get out of bed.
Well, actually, we were just talking about this. I'm like, how that, because last time I was on here, I think the comedian chick said like 300 or something. I was like, how?
Because she walks around with a mattress strapped to her back.
Like, literally, what are you doing? But I think it's the same for men because the physiological effects are the same. You're still more likely to have STDs. You're still down regulating your dopamine and oxytocin receptors. True. It is true.
The STD thing, it's not true.
Because women men can't get HPV?
No, women are more susceptible to STDs.
You see, this is the thing. Feminists sell a lie, or modern feminists sell a lie to women to have high body count, or be promiscuous and whatnot, and women buy into it without thinking of the dangers or the consequences of it. So obviously to them it shouldn't be a deal breaker. So you know what you're doing, but it shouldn't be a deal breaker when getting in a relationship, or men shouldn't think of your high body count because you as a woman, you're exploring your options, you're trying to get this empowerment, whatever that's been given to you as a woman, but you don't think of the consequences. Okay, talk about the consequences. So women know there are consequences, or know that men can have STD, right? Let's use that. But I mean, more women still move and give into promiscuity to have high body count. So I mean, who is endangering who? You know the consequences, you know the dangers of high body count, of what men are most likely exposed to, but you still engage in it. So I mean, make it make sense. Why are many women always having this talk that, oh, about men do it too? Doesn't make it okay. It's not okay to sleep around, to have multiple partners. It's not okay for men, it's not okay for women. So why are women thinking or saying that because men do it, they should be also open to doing it? Make it make sense. Where is the reasonable talk or reasonable argument regarding that?
Just for anatomical reasons. But on top of that, there is another differential here.
With gay men?
Hold on, stop. You gotta let me, you can't keep fucking interrupting.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so in addition to anatomical reasons, women will tend to gravitate towards high status men. So women are more likely to end up sharing men.
Okay. No argument there.
Yeah. So if all the girls are trying to fuck Kanye or Chris Brown, who fucked thousands of women,
yeah,
and women are attracted to men of status and all this sort of stuff, the men that women tend to pick when it comes to their promiscuity is they have access to those men.
Yeah, I think that women will tolerate more.
It's not a put off for these women. Whereas if a man was privy to the fact that a woman's fucked 1,000+ men, no matter her status or her attractiveness level, it's more likely to be a put off.
Well, yeah, I'm not disagreeing on the fact that like the majority of women will accept it more than men will. I'm saying it should be an issue for either sex because of You could still get an STD. You could still have to deal with the other party's dependence. You could still have someone with an avoidant attachment style who can't form proper connections because their, hormones and neuroreceptors are just totally screwed. So I think it should be concerning to either partner, but I'm not saying that it is as much for women as it is men. I think you're right about that. And I think that's silly of women, but it's a thing, yeah.
Okay. So your position is what?
You think it's silly of women?
Yes.
So I wonder, how does a woman determine a man has status?
Most women probably go for his money, his fame, all the things that he mentioned.
And also, what is considered status for men is beautiful women, right?
Sure.
So the more beautiful women that a woman has banged, it seems obvious to me that if women are going for men of status, that if beautiful women were not going for those men, they would think there was something wrong with them.
Yeah, but I think that's silly, and that might be like my touch of the tism where I don't care about like social norms, but like I think what we should value is a man's integrity, his character, his ability to be a good partner for you, not the fact that he's banged a bunch of hot chicks.
But but let's separate these two concepts, the descriptive from the prescriptive, right? So I agree with you that people should base things around virtue, right? I agree with that, but they don't. So descriptively, they don't. Doesn't it track that women, if they were looking for men of status, would be looking at men who banged a lot of women?
Well, yeah, I'm not denying that.
Because that would prove that women desire him. That's part of their status, right?
Right, but that's why I said I think it's silly. Like
But is it silly? Because because in reverse, that is not the case. It does the exact opposite for women, where men go, oh, well, your status is fucking garbage, right? Because you slept with a lot of men. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
I just think it should be the same.
You know why it's different? If only many women know exactly what men want. For women, if a man has high body count and all of that, when they meet the man, they think they are special or they are different and all of that. But if a man has low body count, you see, for some women, it's going to be a turn off. Or many women will be like, oh, the man is not experienced enough. So they would rather go for a man with high body count and also measure the type of women he's been with and all of that and look at themselves and say, okay, they meet this match. So to them, physical attributes and other things plays more. While for men measure how many sexual partners or how many partners you had. And obviously, it's a huge turn off. No man is willing to share his partner with somebody and just envision how many men she's or how good she is with other men and how other men find her really good in this aspect or good and that. No man has that time. So to them, it's a turn off. There's lots more reason you have to think of it. It is a turn off. But at the same time, both parties shouldn't engage in it. But women shouldn't be doing it just because men do it too. So that makes it okay for them to also engage in it. And because modern feminists is selling the lie to them to do it as long as men are doing it. So they also should do it. Rather, for women, is a turn on if a man has multiple partners or have high body count, because to them the man is experienced, and also for them to compete or measure the type of women he's been with. It's a good thing she made mention of the financial aspect and the fame aspect. Think of it this way: if there are few men who are wealthy and famous, and there are more men who aren't wealthy or famous, do you think women would go for the men or the more men who aren't famous? Of course, no. They would rather be in queue pursuing those multiple men, because of those multiple men. Modern women would rather be in competition with other women, go for the 1% of men who are famous, wealthy, than go for the men who are relatively average and don't have the fame. Many modern women would rather pick the wealthy men and the famous man over the average man. All 99 women are pursuing the 1%. So women are fine, or women are okay going around and repeating the exact same thing, doing the exact same thing with the same type of men. They don't have an issue. Do you think men For men on their own part, they are willing to go around and do the exact same thing over and over again. No. So I wish women would figure all of this out and see the damages they are doing to themselves. But of course, they don't want to think about it or think of the consequences. Rather, they think that because men are doing it, so obviously they would go for it.
Well,
I don't
okay.
think it is.
I love the idea of both parties moving and gravitating towards each other based on virtues, right? I think that that's great. But that is not the case.
Well, yeah, I'm not arguing that it's not.
Yeah. So, I mean, prescriptively, I would agree with you that they should move towards virtues, but they don't. So that if they don't, right, then how can you give the advice to men, for instance, not to do this thing? How can you give them the advice to not do this thing if women will reject them if they don't do the thing? That's my whole thing. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, you shouldn't. Well, I guess it's. Well, you're religious, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't base it off of rejection.
Give me a secular argument.
Well, you should base it off of like what the Bible tells you to look for in a partner.
That's a religious argument,
right? That's what I was saying.
Give me a secular argument, non-religious.
You should care about your sexual health. You should care about your mental health, like all of the things.
Those don't seem to be things which are highly affected.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but just know that there are women like me who don't find it attractive, who the slightest bit of competition turns me off. I don't want anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. Just wait for that person rather than risk all this other shit.
If a guy is really high status, he doesn't give a shit about you. He's going to have tons of women who look like you.
But we're talking about the average Joe, right?
No. In fact, the opposite. So we're talking about high status men. So Brian's argument. So Brian's argument. Not just Kanye, right? That's super ultra high status, right? Brian's argument to you is he's saying, look, women seem to move towards men in a smaller group, right? So this is why men end up with thousands of sex partners. Some men, it's because they have access to them, right?
Yeah,
they plainly have access to them.
There's no disagreement there.
But if it is true that it is looked at by women as being odd or weird that women won't go near a guy, right, because they also perceive that as social status, then how would you actually convince a man who wanted to attract really beautiful women to not have lots of sex with other beautiful women, knowing that that would be descriptively an attractive function for him?
Because there's other attractive functions, and if you want to bang a bunch of beautiful women, then I wouldn't argue that at all, by all means.
No, but it's actually going to lead to banging more beautiful women, right?
Agreed. But are you looking for the one? Are you looking to bang a bunch of beautiful women?
I mean, what are you going to say to one of these kind of 10%ers or 20% men who are like, oh, gee, well, let's see. I could bang one chick forever, or I could bang tons of hot chicks, and the more hot chicks I bang, the more likely hot chicks are going to let me bang them.
No, I definitely get that mentality.
Yeah. So I'm just
if people want to live that way, that's fine.
I've had a problem with arguing against this for a long time from a secular perspective. From a religious perspective, it's very clear. But from a non-religious perspective, how the hell are you going to convince men who are banging really, really attractive women, and the more attractive women they bang, seemingly the more attractive women they can bang, it seems to me like it's impossible to convince them otherwise.
I mean, you can tell them other things, but it's probably not going to be as big of a deterrent as you would like it to be. But also, it's not my objective as a libertarian. I don't give a shit what anybody does. Like, do what you do. So that's,
You're a libertarian?
That's the closest
so gross
alignment that I can find. Really, I'm like a centrist, but...
Too much Jordan Peterson. Too much Jordan Peterson.
Maybe so. Maybe it's too much Alex Jones.
Yeah, too much of him too. Okay, so I guess that's the only place we could really go with it then.
In all, feminists or modern feminists are selling the lie to modern women, deceiving them and telling them to have high body count and not facing the dangers or facing the consequences of whatever, just because men are doing it, so women should also engage in it because of the empowerment scheme, which is all a lie. But obviously, if women really come together and decide they're not going to engage, or just as how they are rushing and going or giving into promiscuity, if they also think of the consequences and decide not to get into or get involved in promiscuity, who is it going to benefit the most? Obviously, women, but they don't want to think of it that way. But let me know what you think. I'm sure tons of people have interesting things to share. I would really love to share that. You can share the useful information you think might be really helpful. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all of that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.